Hi and welcome to wrist training. We have 10 different exercises to train the stability of the wrists. We're always going to do one exercise for wrists. And then I'm going to read here something on this laptop where is presented a little text to muscle atrophy. We're always going to read a little fraction, try to learn it, and then we're going to do an exercise. So we're always going to do an exercise and read something. And that helps us to have a break from the exercises, but also this exercises then give us a break and gives our brain the chance to not just store information in the short-term memory, but in the intermediate or maybe even in the long-term memory, so that we actually memorize about muscle atrophy, what's written here. Two more things. Participating in the exercises is at your own risk, and muscle atrophy is a disease, and I'm going to talk a lot about diseases and symptoms of diseases and causes. The first exercise, the spotlight. We're having both arms with fists next to us, and now we are bringing these fists down and again up. And if any of these exercises cause pain in the wrists, then stop immediately. We're going slowly, just as far as we can go, with a bit of effort, only a bit of effort up, as much as it goes, with a bit of effort just, and then in the other direction. And we never work until exhaustion. So this is going to be the last time. Down and can. Now to the first thing, to muscle atrophy. Muscle atrophy affects the muscles in the human body. Okay, muscle atrophy affects the muscles, so it has something to do with the muscles. That is affected. These muscles are affected by muscle atrophy. Potentially. Humans have 3 types of muscles. So an explanation to muscles. 3 types have humans of muscles. The first type is the cardiac muscle, the second type is the smooth muscle, and the third type is the skeletal muscles. The second exercise, and then to the 3 types, a bit more explanation what these 3 types are. That was the spotlight, and now the flashlight. Again, both hands with fists at the outside, comfortable. Now we bring these fists to the inside and to the outside. We're going slowly, as far as we can go, with a little bit of effort to the outside, not to the inside. And as soon as we've reached that point, which we could reach with a little bit of effort, we're turning around and we're going into the other direction. And now, last time to the outside and back to the inside. So, muscle atrophy affects the muscles, and humans have 3 types of muscles. The cardiac muscle, the skeletal muscle, and the smooth muscle. The cardiac muscle is the myocardium in the walls of the heart, and it contracts and presses by the blood of the heart through the blood system and the rest of the human body. So the human blood has 3 walls. Prior to all, the pericardium, in the middle the myocardium, and at the end the endocardium. And the big one in the middle, the myocardium, that is the cardiac muscle type. And this myocardium, this big myocardium, contracts and thereby presses all the blood which was in the heart out of it. And it goes through the aorta and through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, through the aorta to the human body. That's the first type, the cardiac muscle, it's the myocardium. And the second type is the smooth muscle. They are on the inside of blood vessels and most parts of the gastrointestinal tract. An example of what the smooth muscles do in the gastrointestinal tract is peristalsis. And peristalsis is a coordinated contraction of smooth muscles in diverse parts of the gastrointestinal tract, for which the food is like surfing on the wave movement pushed forward. First, the next exercise before we're going to peristalsis, what the smooth muscles are doing. Now flat hands on the outside, and we bring these flat hands to the inside. And to the inside. And to the outside. Back to the inside. And to the outside. So last time to the outside, to the inside. So smooth muscles are walls of blood vessels. These are blood vessels, arteries and veins. And they are also in a lot of parts of the gastrointestinal tract. And they are doing peristalsis. And peristalsis is the coordinated manner in which they contract. So they contract at one part and then along the longitude, and that propels the food forward. That's peristalsis. The movement is peristalsis movement, and that pushes the food like a surfboard on a way forward. That is smooth muscles doing. And then skeletal muscles, they are these bigger and smaller muscles like biceps, triceps, quads, hamstrings, so trapezius. So the biceps, the triceps, the quads, the hamstrings, or the trapezius. These are the skeletal muscles. And the next exercise, so these are the three types. Myocardium, the smooth muscles doing, for example, peristalsis, and the skeletal muscles, these big muscles. The next exercise, flat hands at the outside, the pancake flipper, and we're bringing these hands up and down. And again, only as far as we can go with big of effort. As soon as we reach that point, turning slowly around and coming into the other direction. And up and down with the pancake flipper. So 3 times. And now, if these skeletal muscles lose mass, that is called muscle atrophy. And the skeletal muscles are meant. So skeletal muscles, biceps, triceps, quads, hamstrings, or trapezium. If they lose mass, that is muscle atrophy. Muscle atrophy is the loss of mass, of muscles, of skeletal muscles. Loss of mass of skeletal muscles like biceps, triceps, quads, hamstrings, trapezius can be caused by immobility, aging, malnutrition, medications, injuries, and diseases which affect the musculoskeletal or nervous system. So immobility, just moving a lot, there can be a lot of reasons for it. Immobility, aging, people are longer affected by aging. Malnutrition, so bad or too little food. Medications, sometimes medications. Injuries also, and diseases which affect the musculoskeletal and nervous system, like relation to the musculoskeletal or nervous system. So just as the next exercise, we are practicing our long arms out, the T-Rex in the morning, and we bring these hands down, and again up, and down, and again up. Same rules. Only as far as we can go without a little bit of effort. If you feel pain by this exercise, we stop immediately, like always. And we never work until exhaustion, so we stop in beforehand, and it's gonna be, how about now? Now the T-Rex in the gym. If you don't have a tennis ball, you can just do it without one, just with a fist. I'm taking the tennis ball like this, with these 4 fingers, the thumb is basically not doing that much. And I'm holding it that, flat hand from the knuckles to the elbow, and we are pressing with moderate force, and releasing. And we are pressing, and release, and again, we are pressing, releasing, and on the outside. We are pressing, and releasing, again, pressing, and releasing, last time, pressing, and releasing. Changes in weight, changes in limb or waist circumference are not reliable indicators for the muscle mass loss by muscle atrophy because of conditions like obesity, where obesity has too large amount of fat is in the body, or edema, where fluid accumulates in legs and arms. So it is not enough to just measure the weight of a person or the circumference of the limbs. Limbs of waist or of the waist. I think that is the waist, I don't know. And because it can be not visible under obesity. Obesity is if it's too much fat in the human body, or because of edema. By edema, there are fluids accumulated in the arms or legs. So just to measure that is not enough. The next exercise, the cautious big bang. We're placing the fingertips of one hand above the nails of the other hand, and then we're pressing a bit onto it. We're opening the force against that hand. Not too much force. We are opening, and we are closing. On the other side, the hand on top presses, and the upper arm opens against the force of the pressing hand, and then closes the resistance against the hand on top, which tries to close faster. And that was of course the big bang. Now to the rectangular. Now, first to the next exercise. We are having the arms at the side, not the fists, and we are bringing them down the hands, and we are flaring the fingers. And now we're bringing them up, and we're making a fist, and we're pressing the fist together. The finger also we're making a strong fist, and we're bringing the hands up. Now bring the hands again down, and flare again the fingers. And bring the hands again up with the fist, and also press the fist together. not holding out, but press together. And the last time, down and flare the fingers. And the last time, up, make a strong fist, press the fist together, and bring the hands up. Next exercise, the quadrangular castle architecture. Both hands were fists out, no turning the fists to the inside. And we're going up. To the outside. And down. Let's do the last one into the middle, before we now going opening backwards. So down. To the outside. And up, and let's finish inside. And we're ready for the last exercise, but first to muscle atrophy. Symptoms. Difficulty standing up, walking and stair climbing leads increasingly to falls. Muscle loss of the throat can cause problems with swallowing. Diaphragm atrophy can cause breathing difficulties. Diaphragm, a little explanation to the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a sheet of skeletal muscles separating the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. The diaphragm contracts, which increases the volume of the thoracic cavity, which creates negative pressure in the thoracic cavity, which draws air into the lungs. So the diaphragm is around here, separating the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity, and that diaphragm is a skeletal muscle which contracts. No real explanation here, but I don't have one. So it's something like it contracts and that creates a negative pressure in the thoracic cavity, and through that air is drawn into the lungs. And if that skeletal muscle with the diaphragm doesn't work properly by muscle atrophy because it loses something, it loses mass, then the breathing doesn't work so good because the skeletal muscle with diaphragm can't contract, and that creates a negative pressure, increases the volume of the thoracic cavity, and can't pull air that goes into the lungs anymore. Something like that. I don't have a better explanation. And also further symptoms: increased risk of infections, decreased immunity, poor bone healing, and increased mortality. So a greater risk of infections. The immunity against the bacteria and infections is good against bacteria. It's not formulated what it really means here, but decreased immunity. Poor bone healing, so bones don't heal that good, and increased mortality. Increased mortality. A little more in a moment. First to the last exercise. It is the crab anxious to have fever. We are one way outside, and the hand is formed to a fist. We bring this fist down, and we're pressing. We're pressing with the fingers with moderate force only. Only very carefully against the index finger, not on the outside of the pulling. So we're pulling on the outside of the wrist, and we're doing it very carefully. If it has pain, then stop immediately. And now we're pressing from the top. This is the most critical one. So really just a little bit of pressure. And from the bottom. With the other hand, hand down and we press it against it. And now pull from the outside. And press from the top. And from the bottom. We're done with all the exercises for the wrist. Now a little relaxation exercise. The extensor digital muscle lies here in the middle. So bend the elbow, bring the wrist to the outside, press against the middle arm, and go down, make a fist into, and bring the fist in, and straighten the arm. So elbow bend, wrist up. Now make a fist, bring the fist down, and straighten the arm. And a few times more, and go with moderate pressure up of the middle part of the arm last time. And on the other side, bend the wrist. Bend the arm, flex the wrist, knock your fist, and bring the fist down. In. And that is enough. Don't have much time left. In skeletal muscles, amino acids, creatine, myoglobin, and adenosine triphosphate are stored. If the metabolic demands are greater than the protein synthesis delivers, muscle mass is lost. So in the muscles, in the skeletal muscles, there's stored amino acids, creatine, myoglobin, and adenosine triphosphate. If there's more used up than produced, then it leads to muscle atrophy. Physical activity is a significant muscle stimulus and a crucial component for slowing or even reversing muscle atrophy. So exercises, physical exercises. If exercises are impossible, for example, by paraplegia, people have, most of the times, it's an accident of the spinal cord inside of the spine, so a break of the spine, paraplegia, the legs can't be moved anymore. Then something called functional electrical stimulations can be used. And an adequate calorie and protein intake is important to avoid muscle atrophy. I'm over time. Thank you very much. Until next time.